You're listening to the IFF TV podcast.
Irish Football Fan TV. It's myself, Paul Nealon, and I'm with Gary Spain, and we've got Milos from the Serbian football Twitter account, and he's basically here to do an opposition preview, and he's going to give us the lowdown on Serbia. First up, Milos, thanks for taking the time out to have a chat with us.
No problem, anytime. Hello, Ireland.
So you're obviously getting on to us from Canada. What's your Serbian link then?
I'm from there. I've just been in Canada, living here, working here for the last couple decades. But I'm from Serbia. I'm Serbian, so it's my national team that I support, and I support Canada as well because I live here. But Serbia is number one by far.
So just on the Serbian squad, obviously there's been a lot made out about the manager and stuff like that coming in, and these didn't have a manager up until that long ago. So what's kind of been the thoughts of the Serbian fans? Because you have like 20,000 followers on your Twitter account, so I imagine that you'd have a good interaction with the fans. And so what's the general consensus among the fans there?
Yeah, well, yeah, we didn't have a manager. We did not have a manager until about 3 weeks ago. Our FA is known for being very corrupt and crazy, so. The old manager was fired, and then they said they'd have a new manager by December. And then December came, January came, February came, March came, and finally in March they named a new manager. But the new manager, it's Dragan Stojkovic. He's a legend in Serbia. He played for a national team for 17 years, maybe 18 years. He was a captain for 10 of those years. He scored a brace at Italia 90 at the World Cup against Spain that took us to the quarterfinals. So he's one of the biggest legends in Serbian football and Yugoslavian football in general the last 20, 30, 40 years. So most fans are very happy that he's taking over because he's someone that's very well respected. He hasn't had much coaching success. Actually, he's had no coaching success in Europe. He's won the Japanese league 10 years ago. He's mostly coached in Japan and China, so he's quite unproven in that sense, but he does have a 10-year coaching career behind him, as well as an amazing playing career, and he's a legend here. Everybody loves him. So it's a pretty big question mark to see how he'll do. He's never coached in Europe. He's never coached a national team, but I think most people are very happy because the other options that were out there were some horrendous choices that nobody would have liked. And he's someone that everybody likes and respects, and the players will definitely respect. So it's a lot of people are happy with that. It was done all very short notice and very quickly. He's going to have 1.5 trainings with the team, so it's not a lot of time to get used to the players or get a system in. As opposed to Ireland, you guys have had Stephen Kenny for a while now. You had it's been a bad while, I know, but it's been at least you had 7, 8, 9 games with him, so you're at least used to a manager, and you know what system he's going to play and what players he's going to count on, despite the players you're missing. And we just got a new manager literally 3 weeks ago. He hasn't met any new players yet, so it's a tough spot to be in, but people are confident and optimistic because he is well liked.
Yeah, so Milos, I mean, I was actually at that game in Verona where he scored the 2 goals against Spain. Absolutely amazing. So I know Dragan Stojkovic is an absolute legend in Serbia, and a Red Star Belgrade legend as well. Will that cause any issues with Partizan fans or fans of other clubs? And I had heard there was going to be factions in the camp, and is that sorted out now? Will everybody be united behind him?
Well, generally that would be a problem, but he's such a legend that he transcends, the club rivalry. There's no Partizan fan who doesn't think he's a legend and loves him as well because of his success for the national team and just being a legend in general. So I don't think that's going to be any type of issue. Also, as far as like factions in the camp and things like that, he has not called up a lot of the veteran players. This is a generation change. You're not going to see guys like Branislav Ivanovic, Nemanja Matic, Luka Milivojevic, Alexander Kolarov. You're not going to see those guys. They're not with the national team anymore. It's more of a new generation of younger players that are going to prove themselves. So he's going to be the one spearheading that. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't expect there to be factions or issues like that. Of course, there are many issues with our FA. Our FA president is actually currently under investigation because of money laundering, corruption, ties to organized crime. So the FA, it could be changing and crumbling at any moment, and I'm sure it will be. But as far as he goes, everybody seems to be behind him, and I don't think that'll change unless there's some horrible results that come soon.
I thought it was just our association that were dodgy, but anyway, just on that, you've obviously said he's got rid of a lot of players and stuff like that. But from an Irish point of view, who should we be fearful of in your squad? We obviously know there's like the players like Jovic and even Mitrovic to an extent, but is there some players that maybe Irish fans might not have heard of that they should be wary of, or we should be wary of? Sorry.
For sure, Dusan Vlahovic. He's the 21-year-old striker from Fiorentina. He has 12 Serie A goals this season. He has 11 goals in his last, I think, 15 or 16 games. I was just watching him play right now against AC Milan. He had a beautiful assist. He's an amazing player. People talk about Jovic and Mitrovic up top, but I think he's going to be the one that starts against Ireland because his form right now is unbelievable. He's very strong, very fast, modern-day striker. He's going to cause a lot of problems for any team. And he got his debuts back in the Nations League in the fall. He was unreal in all those games. He came on as a sub, caused so many issues in the air, on the ground. With his movement, his strength, he's just an unbelievable player. And he's going to be at a very big club very soon because he's unbelievable. Also, of course, there's Serbian milinkovic-savic, who plays for Lazio. He has 10 assists this season, which is the most in Serie A. Absolutely dynamic player, bosses the midfield, also amazing in the air, wins a lot of headers, scores a lot of goals with his head. Then there is Filip Kostic, who's a winger, left-sided winger in the Bundesliga, Eintracht Frankfurt. He has, I think, the second most assists in the Bundesliga this season. Very dangerous player, one of the best crossers of the ball in all of Europe, in my opinion. So there's a lot of players that we have that are in amazing form currently, and they're doing amazing things. But it's one thing to do great things for your club, and it's another thing to do it for as a collective for the national team. So it will be interesting to see what happens. Often we had all our players were in amazing form in the playoff against Scotland, and then we played Scotland, and we had a pretty bad game and went out on penalties. So anything can happen. I'm not overly confident just because our players are in great form. It's going to need to all click and connect, and we just don't have a lot of time to set up a side and set up a system for the game in 2-3 days.
Yeah, you mentioned the Scotland game, and that's probably the game that gives us a lot of hope because we'd probably think we are better than Scotland. But having said that, I would think Russia are probably better than us. And a few days after Scotland, you went and beat Russia 5-0. So is it a case that if you click in attack, you could absolutely blow us away? But the defence, maybe we may get some chances that you may be weaker at the back because all the players you mentioned were all offensive players as well.
Yes, yeah. Our main weakness is definitely the attack. The defense. As I mentioned, a lot of the veteran players and Matic, who was the cover for the defense, are not there anymore. And we have one really good defender, Nikola Milinkovic, who plays for Fiorentina and Serie A as well. It's one of the most wanted and most valued young defenders in Europe. He'll be at a big club probably in the summer. But other than him, it's very shaky and inconsistent. There's guys that are either not playing regularly for their clubs, or they're not doing well regularly for their clubs. So, and our defense is always changing. It's always, we haven't been able to find a stable, steady center back partnership since we had Nemanja Vidic and Neven Subotic, who were in there together for some years, and then they both retired, and now it's tough to find people to replace them, because those two guys were outstanding players, and now we're struggling with that, and we have been struggling with that for quite a few cycles now. So it'll be interesting to see if DusanTadic can find a defense that works, because in the last couple campaigns, that's been our major issue, is just leaking at the back and giving up a lot of goals.
Just, obviously the last time we played, I think you bet us 1-0 at the Aviva Stadium.
Serbia won the group, and we ended up in a playoff against Denmark.
That's what I thought. Yeah, the famous infamous 5-1. But yeah, you're kind of looking like Serbia. They had our number around that time. Obviously, there was the game away, but I'm worried going into this game. I'm not going to lie. We have so many players out that, even if we were going into it with our best squad or team, I'd still be worried going into it. But the fact is, we pretty much don't have a keeper that's been capped competitively. And then looking around the team, there's players just dropping like flies. We had 4 dropouts today, and Connor Coventry.
Why isn't McGoldrick called up? I saw him play today, and I don't see him called up.
He retired from international football because we didn't get into the Euros after the Slovakia game. Yeah.
Really? Oh, I think he's probably one of the better options you had in attack, because I watch a lot of Sheffield United. He's pretty good, and I think he's been pretty good for Ireland too. I was watching in the Nations League.
Yeah, he would definitely have started if he was available. He would. I think he would definitely have started up front. But it's not just him. We're actually missing. We've had so many injuries in recent weeks that it's very much a threadbare squad that will be going to Belgrade, and it's very worrying for us. Yeah, and
I actually follow Ireland quite a bit. You guys are one of my, after one of my teams I follow for sure. Serbs always have a soft spot for underdog nations like Ireland, Scotland, nations like that. So I know I do follow it, and I see that a lot of younger players in the squad. You guys have Cullen, Knight, O'Shea, Connolly. So hopefully those guys are able to step up and show something, because that's the next generation, and it'll be a lot will be expected from them, and they'll have to step up, or this is going to be a long qualifying campaign, because our group is pretty tough. Luxembourg is an emerging side. Azerbaijan, those Asian teams, or Central European, or whatever you want to call it, Central Asian, but in Europe, teams are always really tough, especially if you're going away. I know you guys have had experience with Georgia and countries like that, so it's always tough. And Azerbaijan is a team that's going to cost someone a second spot for sure.
We just want to take a quick break to speak about our sponsors for this video and podcast, Team FIPE. As you can see in the image there, some of the clubs that Team FIPE has acquired, Shamrock Rovers being the main one so far. Team FIPE is an easy to use online payment platform that covers management and administration, finance, club development, communication, governance and COVID track and trace. Club administrators save hours of time with Team FIPE, save time on administration and finance. You can quickly confirm, decline and record attendance at club sessions and events. With a new database created, parents and players register with the system, which in turn creates and builds a player database for the club. Team groups can be easily set up for easy access to data. Real-time transaction updates. Team FIPE keeps club administrators or team managers updated on processed payments, but also flags up incomplete transactions and automatically emails the payee to give notice of a future attempt. Team FIPE already works with over 1,000 leagues, clubs and academies and are growing all the time. Team FIPE is proud to be helping clubs across multiple sports. Team FIPE is free to use, it's free to install by all of their members. There are no hidden fees, there is no sign-up fee, no annual fee and no monthly membership fee. The processing fee. Team FIPE charge a very modest fee for any financial transaction that they process, similar to the bank or other credit card processor fees. Book your Zoom demo today at teamfipe.com or call on +353 1526 7499.
If he was available, he would. I think he would definitely have started up front. But it's not just him. We're actually missing. We've had so many injuries in recent weeks, that it's very much a threadbare squad that will be going to Belgrade, and it's very worrying for us.
Yeah, and I actually follow Ireland quite a bit. You guys are one of my.
But Serbia seemed to have a particularly tough start with ourselves, then Portugal at home, and then travelling to Baku to face Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
So obviously, if it goes right, you could be in great shape. But are you concerned with Dragan Stojkovic's first 3 games could well define your whole campaign?
Yes, it's really unfortunate because there's no friendlies. You can't have friendlies right now because of COVID-19. So it's really tough. He has no time to prepare. He's gonna have 2 training sessions before the Ireland game. We don't know what system he's gonna play, and all that. And players might drop out because of travel restrictions and things like that as well. So it's definitely a tough situation, and it's very worrying. And that last game against Azerbaijan, particularly, but we do have a lot of depth in our squad, except for in defense. We have 2 great keepers, so many options in midfield, 4 strikers who are all very capable. Mitrovic is not playing well. He's playing for Fulham, but he hasn't scored in a long time. But he has 35 goals for Serbia. I have no doubt that he will. The international game is different than the club game, as we all know, and he's just someone that always scores for the national team no matter what. And I think you can put him in against anybody, and he'll be able to put in a good performance just because he just shows up. So I'm not worried about him per se, but definitely worried about the defense because I don't know, 3 games in 1 week. We don't really have a stable or regular defense as it is. So who knows what things will look like at that 3rd game, and let alone against Portugal on the weekend.
Just you spoke there about that. Like, do you look at I just look at our squad and like we're missing John Egan, we're missing probably the 2 keepers that were probably in there. But like, I know that you were meant to have players, or the manager said that players probably won't be able to come traveling from, I'm not sure what nation it was. Are those players available to you or not?
Yeah, I think the French players, the players from the French league, if they came, they would have to quarantine for 10 days upon return to France. So it looks like they should all come, and they're just going to quarantine anyways because of the importance of these games. But 2 of the players I would say are very important. Rajkovic, the goalkeeper, he's one of the better goalkeepers in France, and I would say he's our starting keeper. So that would be a bit of a loss. And then Stefan Mitrovic, who is one of our central defenders. He's probably our most experienced central defender, so he would be a loss as well. But we'll see. I think sounds like they will come, but I'm not really counting on anything. It sounded like we're going to have a whole team against Scotland as well, but we ended up missing 6 or 7 players. So it's tough to predict in this environment.
Yeah, well, I'm just kind of looking at our squad. We're missing Dan Randolph, who hasn't missed a competitive game in I think 5 years or more. Mm-hmm. John Egan, who was emerging, and you mentioned that you watch Sheffield United, so you'd be well aware of him, and his importance to Ireland has really emerged in the last year since Richard Keogh kind of had his accident with his knee and stuff like that. So we had players there who are really, really big, and that's just 2 that I've named. There's more. Conor Howrahan was starting to show a lot of form for Swansea in the Championship. He's out, picked up a knock at the weekend. I mean, just we're absolutely depleted in what we'd normally have. We're lucky that someone like Aaron Connolly's came back in, who didn't play for Brighton. He breached the COVID rule or something like that, so I think he was punished this weekend. But it was good for Ireland in that sense because he was allowed to come back. But are you in any way worried of Ireland, or what would you be fearful of Ireland if you are at all? Because obviously we scored 1 goal under Stephen Kenny so far.
Yeah, well, I have watched most of your games. As I said, I follow Ireland, and I think the results haven't been good. Obviously, no goals. Lack of strikers, still depending on guys like Shane Long, which is probably not going to work out. But Ireland actually played all right in the Nations League. I think you guys held a lot of possession, had some nice passing, just didn't have the end product or the final ball, as we would say. So Ireland is definitely a team that's going to be organized. You're going to cause us issues. of the physicality as well as on set pieces. There's Duffy, Kieran Clark. Those guys are going to be a problem, I'm pretty sure. And I don't think it's going to be an easy game for us, despite no matter how many players you're missing. As I mentioned, we're coming off a disaster against Scotland, where the week before we destroyed Norway, which is on paper a much stronger team than Scotland, and then we had a horrible game against Scotland and lost on penalties, and then the manager got fired and players retired, and there was a bunch of controversy as well, with some players not playing when they could have played, allegedly. So there's a lot of flux for Serbia right now, a lot of uncertainty. It is a new generation. We don't know what to expect from the new manager. Ireland, you've had Kenya, as I mentioned, for a while now. He's very well familiar with all your players as well, because he was with the youth team before. So he knows what to get out of those players and what he can expect to get out of those players. And I wouldn't be surprised if Ireland got a result in Belgrade, just based on that alone.
Jesus, I hope you're right. You're giving us a bit of hope there, isn't he, Gary?
Yeah, that's. I'm getting a bit more hopeful. I'm very concerned about the attacking talent at Stojkovic's disposal, because any of them would be automatic starters in our team as well. And guys like DusanTadic in midfield as well. He was a real handful in Belgrade 5 years ago, and.
Oh, yeah.
And that was, I wouldn't mind a repeat result of that. We drew 2-2 there. We opened the campaign for the last World Cup in Belgrade and drew 2-2 in a very strange game, because Jeff Hendrick put us ahead very early on, but we were giving an absolute pasting for a lot of the 90 minutes. We're 2-1 down and got the late goal from Darren Murphy. Yeah, so I think we got out of jail. We got out of jail that night, and I'd certainly be very happy with the same result if we could manage that on Wednesday night as well.
Yeah, and it's a must-win for both teams, because our group is a smaller group. There's only 5 teams, so there's less room for error. If you had another team, there's more points to gain. There's just, every point is so vital in the group that has 5 sides. So it's pretty much a must-win, or at least a must-not lose for both teams if we want to be fighting for that second spot, because as I mentioned before, Luxembourg, dangerous side. We had them in the Nations League. We beat them both times, but both games they played really well. They have players now that are playing in better leagues. They're emerging. Azerbaijan, going to be a nightmare away, especially during these COVID times. And the ban, who's going to be allowed to travel by their clubs to Azerbaijan? It's another thing you have to think about in this climate. So a lot of things to think about, and this first game is very, very important, because it will set the tone for what we can expect for the rest of the group.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, it's kind of must not lose. I think a draw would be an absolutely fantastic result, and it's probably the summit of our ambitions would be to go to Belgrade and get a draw, because the first game in the group is just so crucial, because if we were to lose, it would be very tough to kind of claw it back, because the way I see it, and I think most Irish people see it, is Portugal will probably win the group in the end. Now, maybe you have more ambitions of actually finishing ahead of Portugal, but they just look such an awesome side that I think it's probably between the two of us for the playoff spot. But who knows? It hasn't even started yet.
Yeah, if you look at Portugal's squad, their squad is way stronger than the squad that they won the Euros with. So it's just, I don't think we have much of a chance against them. Although they tend to start their qualifiers very slow. Their first couple games, they usually have a slip up. So that's another good thing that we're playing them early. But if you just look at their team, they're so stacked on every position. It's going to be very difficult for anybody to take points for them. Hopefully we can get a draw in that game. But yeah, I think for them, first spot is basically guaranteed. They're just so deep. They're so strong. There's so much quality in every position. It's going to be very difficult for Serbia or Ireland to get above them in the standings.
It was just Milos. We always finish on a score prediction. So can we just get your score prediction, and we'll give ours then as well?
Sure, it's tough. I love Ireland. I hate Declan Rice and Jack Grealish as much as everybody.
Yeah, go on, yeah, boy, yeah.
So, I wish there's a way we can both, go through first and second. But I think I expect us to win 2-1 or 2-0 in this game.
Okay, well, look, if we're being realistic and not being optimistic, you probably are right. Gary, what's your prediction?
My head probably says 2-0 to Serbia, but I'm going to go with 1-1. I think we can get at them, and my heart is saying a famous Irish result as usual, a 1-1 draw.
I'm going to go for 1-1 myself. I don't know why. I think because we're so backs to the wall right now, I could see us nicking a goal and then Serbia just being on top for the rest of the game, and then ultimately just the pressure will give in and we'll end up conceding and 1-1, which I will absolutely take if it's given to me, especially considering the amount of injuries and everything else that's gone on to the squad so far. But I think the good thing we have on our side is we've got Seamus Coleman back in our squad, which we've been really lacking. So I think he'll help in terms of the defence, and he's played alongside Shane Duffy and Kieran Clark before, so Enda Stevens in there. So we have a pretty good back four. It's just the midfield I'm a little bit worried about. But look, if we can get an early goal and get a 1-1 draw, I'd be happy enough with that to just start the group off. As Alan Brown said it today, taking 4 points out of the next two games would be realistic, and anything more than that would probably be a bonus. So I would have to agree on that.
For sure. And also, you guys are due, right? You're due for goals. You're due for a good result. Kenny's had some time now. Obviously, he has limited options, but he's had plenty of time now with the team. He should be getting results. It's just the way it works. It's not like he's not a new manager by any stretch of the imagination. He knows all these players. He should have a system in place by now that can work. But of course, it's going to be difficult with the players that are missing. And obviously, with the goalkeeping situation, that's the main weakness, I believe, because Darren Randolph, I know Irish fans sometimes criticize him, but if I remember those games against Ireland in the World Cup qualifying, he had some pretty big saves. I think he let in a soft one as well in one of those games, but he had some amazing saves, especially in the first game in Belgrade, where we should have scored at least 6 or 7 goals if it wasn't for him. And now I'm not sure who's going to start. If it's Travers, Keller, or whoever else.
It's Travers, yeah. Keller is injured as well.
Okay, well, those guys have no experience at an international level, so it's going to be tough for them to do anything.
Well, he has friendly experience, Mark Travers, but I know I'd agree. But he's basically next in command after Kelleher. So Stephen Kenny said that in his press conference the last day. But yeah, look, Milos, thanks very much for taking the time out. Any Serbian fans that may be listening and haven't heard of your Twitter account, are you just on Twitter, by the way, or are you on Instagram, or where can people find
just
you?
Twitter, but we also have a podcast, the Serbian Football Show, and we just filmed an episode about the upcoming game that will be out tomorrow. So look out for that. We'll talk a lot about Ireland, and all three of us on the show are also Irish fans. So we have a bit of we follow both teams, not as closely as we follow Serbia, but we know a lot about Ireland and we follow their games. So we had a lot of insight about the upcoming game on our podcast as well, which will be dropping tomorrow on our YouTube channel.
Okay, what's the name of the YouTube channel? The Serbian Football Podcast?
Serbian Football Show, yes.
Okay, sorry. So anyone can go over and check that, and it is in English, I assume.
It's in English, yeah. It's all in English.
Might have to give it a look myself. Okay, well, Milos, listen, thanks very much for taking the time out to have a chat with us. We've really, really enjoyed it. It's good to kind of get a different angle and kind of what to expect. There definitely took a lot out of that, so I'm a lot more wary of who to be fearful of going to the game. So thanks again for jumping on.
No problem. Anytime, guys. Good luck.
Thanks, Milos. Thank you.